infuse vitality to every part of Torah. The Peshat, or the simple meaning, the Remes, hint, Drash, the homiletic, and Sod, the mystical. Collectively known as Pardes. Contrary to the mistaken belief that Hasidut only addresses the mystical dimension, it actually illuminates all aspects of Torah, giving each level a new depth and spiritual vibrancy. Just as Hasidut revived the world of man and the physical universe, it revives Torah itself, making each subject studied come alive with essential meaning and clarity. It doesn't merely explain concepts, but reveals their inner purpose and divine energy. An analogy is drawn from Yom Kippur, where the service is only valid when performed by the high priest. His holiness elevates even the regular offerings, infusing them with the sanctity of the day. Likewise, Hasidut, called the Shabbaton of Torah, elevates and energizes all other parts of Torah, just as the soul's Yehidah, or its deepest level, uplifts all other soul levels, Nefesh, Ruach, Nechamas, and Haya. Through Hasidut, one's Torah learning is no longer intellectual alone. It becomes spiritually alive, transforming both the learner and the learning itself.
Beautiful. So the Hasidut is going to now infuse this new energy into every other parts of Torah. And we give the example of Yom Kippur, where the high priest had the ability to elevate all the other offerings. And this is why on Yom Kippur there was a fifth prayer which would elevate, all the previous four, which represented the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and this was the Yechida that had this ability of elevation. And this is what Hasidut, it brings a new life, energy, transformation, and it energizes everything else. So it's not a particular facet of Torah, it is the essence of every facet of the Torah, as we're going to see. And you can continue now the summary.
Okay? The significance of the prayer Modeani. The prayer Modeani, recited immediately upon waking, serve as the foundation for the entire day and all of one's divine service. Although it seems like a simple sentence of gratitude, it is rich with meaning on every level of Torah, Pesat, Remesh, Drash, and Sod, and especially when illuminated through Hasidut. Why focus on Modeani first? Because it's universally practiced and sets the spiritual tone from the moment of awakening. Saying it instills immediate awareness of God's presence and motivates a person to rise with purpose and enthusiasm. Second, it contains a central principle of Judaism, living with a constant awareness of God. Quoting verses like, I place God constantly before me. The sages emphasize that the mindset of Modéani, recognizing God's closeness, should carry throughout the entire day. Hasidut bring out how Modéani is not just a morning ritual, but a continuous state of consciousness. As Rabbi Shalom Dovber expressed in his youth, the dot after the word mercy should be extended through every moment of the day, meaning the gratitude and awareness expressed in Mode Ani must influence all our actions, thoughts, and inner service.
Beautiful. And the reason why we choose the Modéani is because the Modéani is a very special prayer. And by the way, the Rebbe would say that this is his favorite prayer because it's the first prayer you do, and it's a prayer of when you awaken and you're grateful, you recognize Hashem, and this is really the mindset one should carry through the entire day. So what we're going to do now is take this Modéani prayer, explain it with the Pshat, the Remez, the Drush, and the Sod, and then we will bring the explanation of Hasidut and show you how it brings life to all the other levels of explanation, which can be sometimes very different, as we're going to see, because there's a big difference between the Pshat, which is the simple meaning, and the Sod, which is the secret. And yet the Chassidut has this ability to connect and to bring life into every explanation. So let's continue with Modéani on all four levels. Explain on all four levels. Gilbert, if you want to read this one.
Yes, Rabbi. You have restored my soul within me. To begin then our analysis, the subject of Modi'ani, according to Peshat, the plain meaning of Torah, is giving thanks to Hashem for having restored my soul within me. Though we make the blessing of Elohai Neshama for the restoration of the soul, it is still also necessary to say Modi'ani, because the obligation to give thanks for the return of the soul applies immediately upon awakening from one's sleep. For just as the blessing for the enjoyment of food, berkat hanihinin, is obligatory immediately when pleasure is derived and even before one benefits. Likewise, the blessing of thanksgiving for the restoration of the soul, which is the greatest benefit of all, and includes all specific worldly pleasures and benefits, is obligatory immediately upon awakening from one's sleep. And inasmuch as the blessing of the Elohai Neshama contains mention of Hashem's name, and so cannot be said in our times before the morning washing of the hands, one must therefore give thanks for the restoration of the soul immediately upon awakening, at least through saying Modi'ani. Nevertheless, it is still necessary to say the blessing of Elohai Neshama later, for not only does the blessing Elohai Neshama contain certain details that found in Modi'ani, but also Modi'ani there is the mention of Hashem's name, and any blessing which does not contain the name and the attribute of Hashem's kingdom is not truly a beracha.
Beautiful. So, according to the Pshat, why is it that we say the Modéani every morning? And so it's in order to thank Hashem first thing in the morning. We're not able to say the blessing of Elokai Neshama yet, because while you're still in bed, you still didn't wash your hands, and you're in a state of impurity, and by so, you're not able to say Elokai Neshama. There was a time back when the Beit HaMikdash was built, where they were able to say the Elokai Neshama first things because they had the ability to remain in a state of purity. But nowadays we can't do so. So the first thing we do is the Modéani. You need to thank Hashem first thing in the morning. You're not able to say Elokai Neshama, so you say the Modéani. And later on, after you're purified in everything, you'll be able to say the Elokai Neshama, which is also a way to thank Hashem in a more detailed way than the Modéani. So this is the Pshat. This is the reason, the purpose of why we say Modéani, and why it was established that we say it. So you can continue on this slide, Gilbert.
Okay. Modi'ani alludes to the resurrection of the dead. All the above will help us understand why in Talmudic times, Modi'ani in fact was not said, and only the blessing of Elohai Neshama was recited. For in Modi'ani, there is nothing new or additional to the blessing Elohai Neshama. On the contrary, as explained before, saying Modi'ani is required in our times only in order that the thanks may be given immediately upon awakening from one's sleep. In the Talmudic era, they said Elohai Neshama immediately upon awakening from their sleep, and had therefore no need to say Modi'ani. Proceeding to the level of Remes, the allusion or intimated meaning. The idea of Modi'ani is that the restoration of the soul every morning alludes to the resurrection of the dead, for sleep is called 1/60th of death, and hence the restoration of the soul upon awakening is of an order of resurrection. That is the meaning of "for having restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness." From this restoring my soul within me, we know that great is your faithfulness to the resurrection of the dead.
Beautiful. And now we have the second level of explanation, which is the remez, the hint, the allusion. The more intimated meaning is that Modéani is hinting us on what we call Triat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead. Why is Modéani hinting on that? Because Modéani is also an awakening from a state of sleep to a state of life, and we know that sleep is 1/60th of death. So in the Modéani is hinted also that if Hashem has the ability to give you life every day, He also has the ability to resurrect the dead at the right time. And this is why we end by thanking Hashem. And when we say great is your faithfulness, we also include the resurrection of the dead. That not only is He giving us life again today, but in the future again, He will give us life. And this is what the Remez brings and finds, in the depth of the Modéani. What's hinted in the Modéani is not just that morning prayer, but it's also the resurrection of the dead. So this is a type of explanation that is different than the previous one, which was just explaining, the functioning of Modéani, why Modéani was established, and more the simple meaning of the meaning of that prayer. Now we have something a little bit more hinted, into the Modéani. So,
Rabbi,
yeah.
sorry, I'm not too clear on why in the Talmudic era the Modéani is not recited. I know it's because of the Elokai Neshama blessing, but why the rabbi at that time decided not to utter, not to say the Modéani? Why? The specific reason.
They didn't need to say Modéani because they maintained their state of purity. So they were able to say God's name first thing in the morning, which we cannot do today. We first have to wash our hands. And that's and we can't say God's name yet. Yet we still want to thank Him first thing. So it was established that we say a prayer without God's name, which is the Modéani prayer, which does not contain the name of God. And by so we're able to say it even in a state of impurity. And this is why today we have the Modéani first and the Elokai Neshama a little bit later, once we've reached a state of purity. And
then
now we're going to go. Yeah.
Sorry. Then we can we say that at that time, at the Talmudic era, the Jews doesn't or do not require to do Netilat Yadayim every morning. They don't do that. Am I correct?
So I believe they still did it.
Okay.
Because besides the impurity, there is the concept of Netilat Yadayim that is constant. But their level of awareness and holiness made them stay pure even throughout the night. And first thing in the morning, they were able already to recite Elokai Neshama.
Understand, Rabbi.
And now we're going to continue with the Drush, which is the third level of explanation. So Vadia, if you want to read this one.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi. Before I read, can I ask a question with
Sure.
regard to what Brother Leo asked? Actually, I want to know when exactly this Netilat Yadayim began, in the wilderness or when they after entering the land or somewhere in the middle during Ezra's time? How?
So the Netilat Yadayim, I'm gonna have to look into it when it started exactly. So we can continue at that, Bizat, for now.
Okay, yeah. We are new every morning. Continuing the analysis further, according to Drush, the homiletic expounded meaning. The interpretation of Modéani is that through the restoration of the soul every morning, they are new every morning. God returns to a person the soul which was entrusted to him and does not withhold it for the debts which the person owes him. This act shows the great faithfulness of the Holy One, blessed be He. Great is your faithfulness. From this, we expound and learn that a person should also be faithful and trusting in the same manner and not withhold an article entrusted to him by another because of the debts owed to him. And according to the esoteric part of Torah, Sod, Modéani is explained in the following manner. The words living and eternal king refer to the divine attribute of Malchut, sovereignty, kingship, as it is united with the attribute of Yesod, foundation. For the word Melech, king, indicates God's attribute of Malchut, and living and eternal his attribute of Yesod. Living and eternal King who has restored my soul within me means then that the restoration of the soul comes from the level of Malchut as it unites with the level of Yesod.
Beautiful. So now we have the last two explanations. So the Drush expands always on the meaning. And what do we see from the Modéani? That Hashem returns the soul even though we didn't pay our debt. So what are we referring to? That, every day God gives you a dose of energy that comes with your soul, and you're supposed to use it to serve Him and to bring light and to elevate things. And not every day do we accomplish fully our potential. And yet we see that Hashem every day restores the soul and He gives us another chance. And great is your faithfulness, because you don't know, you give man a soul and you give him life, who knows what he's going to do with it, right? So Hashem has great faith in us. And even though that we may not have paid our debt, so to say, in the previous days, yet again, He gives it to us. So what could we expound on this? That a person should also be faithful and trust another in the same matter, just like God. And if you're entrusted with Pikadon, which is an entrusted article, just like God is entrusted the soul, you can still give it back, even though the debt wasn't paid yet. So we could expound from the Modéani an act of behavior between a man and his fellow to simulate, God's ways that are very merciful. So this is how the Drush is going to explain the power of Modéani and the meaning of that prayer. Now, if we go a little bit deeper into the fourth level of the Pardes, we reach the Sod. And the Sod is analyzing, the prayer, and we're trying to understand what attributes of God are used into the restoration of the soul. And clearly, it's Malchut in the way it is included in Yesod, which is, by the way, the attribute of Tere, of the Omer. Tere is Malchut Shebe Yesod. So, but this is the power through which the restoration of the soul comes forth. And this is what we see in the Modéanis. Later on, we're going to explain that, what that means, because it's very Sod, it's very secret, what's Malchut, what Yesod, and why is the restoration of the soul connected to this level. But all this is part of the Sod. All this is part of the secret of Torah. And this is how the Sod is going to be able to explain, the Modéani prayer. So now we have it. We have 4 levels of explanations on the prayer of Modéani. And now we still need to see how Chassidut can bring life to all the 4 levels. And this is why we're going to move with the next part, the Hasidic insight into Modéani. So Kimchi, if you want to carry on this one.
Sure, Rabbi. With much pleasure. When you say that today is, how do you put it? Like the Omer, the counting of the Omer today is the Malhut in Yesod. You're speaking specifically of the 42nd day, is it?
What? Yes.
You're speaking specifically on this 42nd day.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's continue. We begin the order of the day with Modéani. The preceding exposition, which is based on the 4 levels of Pardes, the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Haya of Torah, elaborates upon various particular ideas in the thanksgiving of Modéani. In contrast to the great general principle, Hasidus, the Yehida of Torah, comes forward to articulate the general comprehensive explanation by elucidating the quintessential point of Modéani, which comes from the level of the Yehida within a person. According to Hasidus, the explanation of Modéani is as follows. We begin the order of the day with Modéani, which we say before washing the hands, and even with hands which are ritually unclean, because all the impurities of the world cannot contaminate the Modéani of a Jew, It is possible that a person may be lacking in one respect or another, but his Modeani always remains perfect. And this perfection and purity are due only to the Yehida. The four categories of Maramak allow for imperfections and even impurities, but in the Yehida of the soul, which is constantly united with a sense of Hashem, there's no connection to all possibility whatsoever for defects and impurities. God forbid. It always remains perfect and whole. This is the inner reason why Modeani has no mention of any of the 7 names of Hashem, which one is not allowed to erase or destroy, for Modeani comes from the level of Yehida, which is the sense of soul, and the thanksgiving expressed by the sense of the soul is directed to the sense of Hashem, which is not contained in any name. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Ronald, if you can please mute your screen, that would be very helpful. And now we have the level of explanation of Chassidut on the Modeani. And what the Chassidut finds is the fact that the Modeani cannot be pushed away even in a state of impurity. It's a prayer that is so powerful because it comes from the essence of the soul, and the essence of the soul does not get tainted by any form of impurity. We have the ability to say it even in a state of impurity. And this is showing the power of the Modeani, unlike the Elokai Neshama, which is a beautiful prayer, and it includes God's name, but in a state of impurity, we're not able to say it. Yet the Modeani, this ability to thank Hashem, that comes from the essence of the soul, that could always be said at any time. So this is the Hasidic explanation on the Modeani. We find this power of the Yechida, which is also the level of Hasidut,